Mountain. It's Melissa Clark, and anybody who knows me knows that some of my biggest passions in the world are family history and the arts and preparedness. And lately there's been a lot of questions about preparedness. People will send me Facebook messages and say, hey, what do I do about this? What should I be storing with this? And one of the questions that's come up a lot lately is water. And water is such a basic need for life. So I thought I would start by sharing a little information about emergency preparedness and water. So the guideline is that the very minimum we need a half a gallon of water to consume for every single day. And that's just to keep us alive. They say at the minimum we should be storing 1 gallon per person per day for a minimum of 2 weeks. So that works out to be, at the very least, 14 gallons per person in your family. So you have to be asking yourself, how much water do we have stored? A lot of us will run to Costco or the grocery store and we'll pick up some bottled water, but a pack of 24 bottles of water, the 16.9 ounce ones, get us just about 4 gallons. So if you were going to store that, you would need, 3.5 of those per person in your family. And it gets expensive to store that way because that water has an expiration date and you need to be replacing it. It works great to have on hand because, like, what I do is I always have 2 of those flats of water in the back of my minivan. So when we're out running errands and we're doing things, if we get thirsty, then we have that water in the back of the van. And as soon as we start to dip into that second flat of water, I always replace it. So we always have at least 8 gallons of water in the back of our van. So let's talk about the water that we should have at home. A lot of us have that quintessential Utah 55-gallon drum of water. Many of us haven't filled it yet. And you can go ahead and raise your hand if that's you, but don't feel bad. You can fill it. They say that you should get a special RV hose and make sure it's sanitized and only ever used for food grade water. But I am here to tell you that it's more important that you have water and then you can deal with sanitizing it after the fact than to have nothing at all. An empty 55-gallon drum will be no use to you in a disaster. So my challenge is if you have one of those drums, get out your hose, go water some of your trees for 1 to 2 minutes so that the water from the hose can completely flush that hose out, and then fill up your 55-gallon drum. My philosophy is with water in the drum is that you treat your water before you use it. You can treat city water, but city water is already treated with a little bit of chlorine to keep it clean and safe in our system. So we don't need to treat city water when we're putting it into our barrels or our jugs. You should, however, be prepared to treat it when you need to use it. So you should have a little bit of bleach on hand. Some people prefer to use iodine. Now, if you're going to use a standard bleach, I wrote down the sanitation. You need to do 6 drops of bleach, common household bleach, not scented, not lemon, not floral, just plain old straight household bleach. 6 drops, which is 1/8 of a teaspoon for every gallon of water. And what you do is you put it into the water and you let it sit for 30 minutes. And a lot of times if you're going to be using that water to drink and serve to people, you're going to want to put it into a pitcher and stir it around because it kind of aerates. You'll notice if you put a pitcher of city water on your counter before you go to bed at night, by the morning, kind of that chlorine smell from city treated water is taken care of, and the chlorine, something happens to the water and the chlorine goes away. It reacts with the air and everything else. So 6 drops of water for every gallon, and let it sit for 30 minutes once you put the bleach into it, because you don't want to be drinking it. You want the bleach to have time to do what it needs to do. That works out to just under 7 teaspoons per 55-gallon drum. So keep that in mind. It's very little bleach. We don't want anybody getting sick from sanitizing water. So there's that. Then there's also 5-gallon bricks. They sell these bricks that are 5-gallon or 7-gallon, and you can stack them in the back of a kid's closet, in your garage. You could keep one in your car. A lot of these require a little spigot thing that you can put on it. And they're great to even drag out when you're having a summer party, because you can just put water on it, out for everyone to drink. The other option, so we've got bottled water, 4 gallons per flat, 55-gallon drum, or the 5-gallon to 7-gallon bricks. One other thing that we do as a family is every Friday night is pizza night. Lots of us do that. And that's the one day of the week that I go and I get a 2-liter bottle of soda for us to share and have with our pizza. So every single Friday, we have one of these that we drink. And then when we're done, I wash it out with just a smidge of dish soap and hot soapy water, and I rinse it really good, swish it around, make sure everything's clean. This is already food grade. And then I let it dry on my dish rack so it's completely clean and dry. Then I fill it up with tap water, and we have a bazillion of these. Now, what are you going to do with all of these? Well, I learned a trick from a former Eagle Mountain resident. He would keep these behind his couch. They're in a place where nobody can see them, but he had hundreds of 2-liter bottles around his house in places like that, and underneath beds or behind a desk, because most couches have that kind of a tilt as they're going up to the wall. So there is that perfect space for a 2-liter bottle. So your challenge is to not be afraid. Do a little bit. That's all you have to do. It's just like get some water, get some ready to eat food, have kind of a plan as a family, and then shelve your preparedness efforts for a little bit. It can get overwhelming for people. And then in a couple weeks or months, come back to it, revisit preparedness and say, okay, now we've got a little bit of water, we've got a little bit of food. What's next for our family? If you're not prepared, you do have reasons to be afraid. But if you've taken just a little bit of time to put some water and some food aside and maybe some cash and have a little bit of a plan, then you're going to be okay. We've got a great community here. We've got a lot of really great neighbors, and you will be just fine. So here's to storing a little bit of water. Make sure you fill up your water bottles, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me or text me or Facebook message me. This is something that I totally love, and I love helping people get prepared. My phone number is 801-357-9156, and I look forward to hearing from you.